The last season of Stranger Things was so bad that not the most intelligent fans thought that the real ending was fake and that a secret final episode that will reveal something new would soon be released. Obviously, there was no secret final episode, because Duffer brothers were busy with anything but writing season 5 properly. So I guess I'm just gonna talk about the plot holes that other people on YouTube probably already covered, but some they didn't, so let's go! Vecna's massive screw-up, straight up fuck-up by the Duffer brothers. The moment where Vecna allows all the main characters to enter the Upside Down, lets them get as close to him as possible, and by doing so makes himself as vulnerable as humanly possible. This is the same antagonist who throughout season 4 and 5 was built up as a pure nightmare, an antagonist whose goal was the destruction of humanity and the entire world. Because Vecna himself viewed reality as a fake construct created purely for control. And all of that, well, it just collapses. This isn't just bad writing, this is humiliatingly stupid and completely thoughtless for a villain of this scale. But somehow, it gets even worse. The Duffer brothers managed to outdo themselves and came up with an equally pathetic and primitive explanation for this exact fuck-up. Their explanation goes something like this. Basically, Vecna didn't expect such a sneaky attack on his own territory. He couldn't even imagine it. They were somewhere out there. Okay, sure, they kind of tried to explain this one particular moment. But everything else? Well, I guess we'll have to figure these things out ourselves. Where is Max's mom? Why is she completely absent in season 5 when we are repeatedly shown that her daughter is in a coma and in life-threatening condition? The next moment is so absurd, it genuinely makes you want to fall off your chair. When Lucas was trying to save Max, carrying her in his arms while hiding from demodogs chasing them, this entire sequence perfectly represents the ridiculous cartoon level and realism of season 5. Here's the scene. Lucas, carrying Max, runs into an elevator. A demodog is charging straight at him, seconds away from literally tearing him apart. What does Lucas do? Right, he just kicks it. The demodog gets knocked back and Lucas casually escapes with Max. Immediately after that comes yet another completely unexplained moment. Lucas, Max, Robin, and Vicky manage to hide from the demodogs in a hospital laundry room. The creatures are literally seconds away from reaching them. And then, miracle time! Mike and Nancy's mom somehow manages to drag explosive gas tanks and literally stuff them into the washing machines. The heat causes the tanks to explode, instantly killing all the creatures. This moment is just impossible to take seriously. Like, how does a wounded woman who was basically hospitalized and close to a coma herself, that was barely alive, manage to drag heavy explosive tanks around? And how did she even know that the kids would be hiding specifically in the laundry room? I mean, she might have followed the demodogs and saw them going there, but I really have no idea how could she physically do that, because demodogs are quite fast. But it turns out that you don't have to explain such things, because you can just make your characters be confident enough when making decisions. Another confusing point is Robin and Vicky relationship arc. This mostly concerns the fanbase. Their arc cannot be considered complete, as the Duffers simply did not finish it. This could have been overlooked if the arc of their relationship had not developed according to the plot written by the Duffers. However, they decided not to overlook it and, after some time, finally gave fans an answer. Of course, that response was just as rushed and primitive. At first, they said they wanted to live it up to the fans. But here's what they said. We want to leave a little space for the fans in terms of where these characters end up. Will Robin and Vicky stay together? Maybe yes, maybe no. Then later on in a small interview, they suddenly confirmed that Robin and Vicky are done. Wow, that's very convenient. First, let's fans imagine their own ending and then casually say, yeah, they broke up. A similar thing happened with Dustin and Susie, if you even remember her, whose relationship apparently ended off-screen. I mean, to me this kind of storytelling feels incredibly disrespectful to fans. You give them a full relationship arc and then you just end it off-screen. Or you can be even smarter, as they did with Nancy and Jonathan's relationship. People literally didn't understand if they broke up, and Duffers had to come out and confirm that themselves. Talking about the things that they forgot or just didn't want to show, here's a very good example how a good final fight with Vecna and Mind Flayer would have looked like. Up until the final fight with Vecna and the Mind Flayer, I wouldn't change much, but I would absolutely add Demogorgons, Demodogs, Demobats, and all of the creatures that Duffers chose not to include, because quote, Vecna did not expect a sudden attack on his territory. Adding extra creatures would have made the fight far more dynamic and dangerous, and would have reinforced the sense of real threat and this brutal battle against everything that comes out of Upside Down. Why would Vecna need all that cannon fodder if there's a massive thing called the Mind Flayer, who should supposedly handle everything on its own? And the result? A completely talentless fight that lasted around 10 minutes, where neither Vecna nor the Mind Flayer ever feels like a real threat. For 10 straight minutes, a group of teenagers beats the shit out of the Mind Flayer, using Nancy as bait, by the way. Honestly, why not take the chance and make the fight more dramatic by killing Nancy right there? And it concerns all of the characters. I mean, it would have been logical and justified. Throughout season 5, Nancy behaves like she's completely immune to fear. The Duffers basically turned her into a Terminator, walking straight into danger without any concern for her life. Her death would have been both logical and genuinely dramatic. I'm just giving here examples. But next comes Jonathan, trying to immediately avenge Nancy. His death would also make sense, since the Duffers completely stopped developing his character. He's just there. No charisma, no growth, zero emotional weight, and let's not forget Joyce, who seems to have completely forgotten that Jonathan even exists. I mean, I understand that he's a grown-up, but she's just focusing all her attention on Will, who spends like half a season squeezing out tears. In that context, Jonathan's death would feel perfectly natural, and still very dramatic. Here you can see that I suggest killing off characters who aren't part of the main group of kids, like Will, Dustin, Mike, and etc. Because I suspect that the Duffer brothers were probably really going to kill off the characters that I mentioned earlier, but it seems that they couldn't come up with a better idea than just leaving everyone alive, especially characters like Mike, Will, Lucas, and Dustin. The most controversial character is 11. Duffer brothers really didn't have a choice with her character, and personally for me, considering that this is literally the only character that had at least some kind of a dramatic ending in the last season, I personally might prefer the way they ended her character, so that later Mike, out of sadness, would come up with a conspiracy theory about her death. Mike and her friends believe that she's somewhere out there, still alive. At least we got some kind of drama concerning these characters. I gotta mention probably one of the most unrealistic and stupid thing of the last season. It's the US military. It's easily one of the most ridiculous elements of season 5, second only to Will's coming out scene. I really don't want to explain such basic things, but the way Duffers wrote the military is laughably incompetent. These guys look worse than modern day Russian soldiers. They act absolutely terrible. They're literally faceless cannon fodder. And it's not just the soldiers from the Upside Down, but also those from the military base. Well, of course, they're soldiers, you can kill them and no one will care. Especially if you remember Hopper, who killed dozens of them, and there are zero consequences for that. Hopper just keeps living his life, relaxing, chilling, moving on as if nothing ever happened. The issue with the military can simply be ignored, because the Duffers write them in the laziest way possible, despite the fact that they're supposed to play a significant role in their season. Instead, they're treated as disposable cannon fodder, killed off by literally everyone, including Vecna himself. Maybe the Duffers just didn't like the terrible military uniforms, which honestly look more like Amazon warehouse worker outfits than actual army gear. As for what happened to the military afterward, only the Duffers know. Their explanation? Over those 18 months, there wasn't much left to do. You can't really study the other dimension, 11 was gone, so they just slowly shut everything down and left town. Convenient. Especially after months of hype, teasers, promos, only to deliver a story full of holes they try to patch after the show ended. It's pathetic. Honestly, any fan theory about season 5 is more interesting than what Duffer's brothers did. They had infinite Netflix money, full creative freedom, top tier VFX, and every opportunity to do better. And instead, they chose to half-ass it and produce shit.